There we go. Yeah.
There
There
we
we
go.
go.
Um, so this is the third and final of our workshop series for the narrative display exploration. It's not where we land, but at least it's where we're beginning. And our quest has been to understand what this thing is, this new idea called narrative display, and to really work on it. So we spent the first session really just with an introduction of what we're referencing when we say narrative display, and there were three kinds of narratives. Um, just a theme, which is an idea or a very interesting, compelling thing like a movie trailer would be. A shared quest, which would be like an invitation to workshop or to be in something. And this idea of individual voice, which is the idea of shaping around one person or one person's experience, whether that's in a book layout or actually talking about the person and the books that shaped them or other ways. So the second workshop, so the first workshop, we just covered that. The second workshop, I provided some images from our bookshop, Plenty. And as a group, we looked at what might make them work better. And so I went back into the field and actually, I can't claim credit for any of these displays, maybe one or two. But for the most part, I talked to our staff and said, here's what the group said, you guys said about the displays, and give it another go. And so everybody, has been working on them, and I took some pictures during the process and have some surprising results. I think some of them are quite exciting and good. Some of them are like, you know, unexpected. So I'll want to share those. And then Sandy, you have some pictures and that I'm hoping you'll talk about. Sherry, do you have anything you want us to add to the deck? You do?
Yes. Yeah. And you can either give me control or I sent a couple of lame pictures, but I can show you more.
Why don't I make you a co-host? Let me see.
That's yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And so
It's a matter of being able to share screen when I'm yeah.
fantastic. So we have a lot of ground to cover. So today's workshop is just really looking at our trials and our results and seeing what each of us can extract to get a little better at this because we're learning as we go. Um, and I will say that I think every effort is profitable because every time I focus and do something, no matter that it's a little lame or it's not as good as I wanted it to be, it has some positive effect. So as an encouragement, you can't mess this up. If you just look at your display and concentrate on it a little bit, it gets better. So we're after the holy grail of greatness, and storytelling, like every good movie producer, I suppose. But every day we won't find it, but sometimes we will. And I'm excited to see what you've got. So I don't want to go first. I'd love to. Steve, let's start.
Are
Let's
you
start.
recording this today?
He is recording. He already started recording. So
Okay, good, good, good. I just want to make sure you guys hit that. If not,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure. This is a landmark event. This is the first time we've started recording on time.
I know. The one time I remind y'all, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
the one time you remind.
thank you for the reminder. So I've got a deck full of pictures, but before switching over and sharing that, Steve, let's kind of start at the top and let's work through everybody's ideas, and then as we go, let's have a conversation about what we see and what we like. So what we're building on is what we really like. And then if we have constructive ideas that might make it better, we want to contribute those too. So that's all. So Steve, you tried something at home as you're thinking about this. And would you mind sharing what you were just sharing with me? Because it was really interesting.
It's pretty esoteric. You sure you want to start with me?
Well, I'm starting out in left field.
We're out beyond the outfield fence.
Okay.
Okay, so hold on. So let me.
The whole idea of beyond bookstores is to really think outside, draw outside the line, so to speak.
So
And
this is a quote I got from. I received a fundraising letter from the Reed College where I went for my first 2 years of college. And then I switched to film school at UCLA. But I've always been impacted by Reed, which is a very weird but wonderful place. And the president, fairly new president, she said, one of the aspects I appreciate most about Reed is seeing how our students and alumni define themselves by breaking traditional boundaries. We're home to biologists who are watercolor artists, computer science majors who are stage actors, and psychology majors who are creative writers, sometimes in multiple languages. The ability to draw insight and inspiration from seemingly disconnected fields of study leads to innovation and betterment of society by improving outcomes for individuals, communities, businesses, governments, and beyond. So the idea is that I was trying I think some of my personality interests are reflected by that. If I had a bookstore, I would aim the display and the stories that appeal to people like me, which is not a lot of people. And so kind of weird, Reedy. And so what I came up with was this, which first I'll show you a video. This is a selection. Hello, Mr. Video. This is a selection of books. This is on my dining room table, but it goes from kind of history through Kerouac all the way up to a book I was very influenced by, which is called Counterculture to Cyberculture. So it's basically Counterculture to Cyberculture is about Stuart Brand to some extent and the Whole Earth Catalog, but really about how the hippie movement in San Francisco became Silicon Valley, which is an interesting thesis that people who are very digital and involved in that world right now owe a lot to the hippie movement, which in the Back to the Land movement and stuff like that. So I was trying to kind of define the personality of this audience for my bookstore. And so what I did is I took this group of books, which is just from my collection, and I started labeling them, trying to figure out what interested me. So it's a little bit like what James Daunt does in England, where the booksellers do a table of books that don't seem to relate, but somehow they do, and they kind of fascinate you and lead you through, various journeys in the store. And so I labeled everything from Bukowski's Post Office to the Whole Earth, which is a book about Stuart Brand, but it's really about the Whole Earth Catalog. And then two interesting offbeat books, one famous, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and another one is Shop Class as Soulcraft, which are both about both philosophy and working with your hands as well. So just both working with your head or your hands. Anyway, so then if I came up with a persona, and I'll explain persona, it would be bohemian, maybe. I don't know. And I have some name for it. And so basically the idea would be that if you can identify a particular character or persona or target that you think stands for your store, but also stands for the most intense fans or audience for that store, you can design more displays of books around that. And obviously along Lisa's tutelage, a story that you retell in your newsletter, which is the workshops I've been doing, and the display in the store, and how one leads to the other. You get the newsletter, you're fascinated by, I'm a boomer. I think I'm a bit of a hippie, but also a bit of a digitarati, and I'm going to go down and see what this is all about, kind of thing. So that was the idea.
Well, if you go back there, Steve, pull us back in, because I'd like us to cogitate on this a little bit. And Jamie, for your awareness, this is way out of the field from what we've been talking about. And at the same time, it's exactly what we've been talking about. James Daunt has been encouraging booksellers at Barnes & Noble. They no longer pay to play for space, and they're saying the booksellers drive the collection. It's a good idea. And it's the idea we've been talking about for years here, this idea that passion-driven kinds of things. Couple of comments. Since he's done that, they've been putting Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance on the tables, a lot of booksellers, and it's now their top-selling book.
Is that true?
I heard that from Phil, who's the chief operating officer for Ingram.
Wow.
Last week. And So that was really interesting. The other is you've got Shop Class's Soulcraft, which is a book that we inherited because we bought at Plenty, we bought the collection from Whirlwind, and it was a collection that had sat there for 3 years, nothing had sold. And we bought that collection, and then our booksellers went nah on this book, and it ended up in my garage, you know, in like with a whole bunch of other books, the Baseball 100 and some other things that other people are selling really well. After you mentioned it, Steve, I rescued that book, took it back into the store, created some display around it that made it make sense. It sold within an hour.
Wow.
So, and it's a powerfully good book. It's just a question of context, and you've created context here that's kind of interesting. So, I'd like to hear from everybody. You know, how does this display? What do you like about this display? What's compelling about it? What works? What do you think? And you know, and is this the kind of thing that could work in your space too, or do you think not so much, or, you know, just reactions or thoughts? Nora, you're first in the list. So I'm going to call on you. How does this strike you? That's fine.
Well,
Nora.
I
Not to put you on
nice
the
being
spot.
put on the spot. No, you're all good. You're all good. I guess the biggest thing that strikes me is the big differences between each of these books. I guess I would not have considered putting I guess Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance in that same group as hippie movement to Silicon. So I guess the differences between each, but how they all overlap. That's it works. It makes sense.
Well, it feels maybe a little dissonant, a little like a chord that isn't quite right, which I think is always compelling. And then in it of itself, something about the color here works. I don't know, and settles me down, but that there's some browns and blacks and, you know, but it's not connected by color. It's connected like you with your overlay by these ideas that make sense to you. Other reactions? I mean, Sherry?
Yeah, I think what works for it is it kind of identifies that niche group of readers who are coloring outside the lines. You know, so it just kind of speaks to them, and especially because they are kind of, there is some dissonance there. That's okay, because if there's one that they like, then they go, oh, okay, this is something else that I would like, and lets me branch out a little bit. So I like that it brings them into some new things, you know, that again might not have first said, oh, I should be reading that because I liked, you know, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. So I think it kind of offers some alternatives to that niche group.
You know, how would you, Jamie, Sandy, thank you. Sherry, do you have any ideas of what you would title this display if you did do some kind of signage, or what kind of question you would ask, or what would you, we talked about signage and the idea of having some kind of invitation. If you were going to add that to this display, what would it be?
I would put a sign on it that just says deep thoughts.
Deep thoughts. Jamie, you're off of mute. You got an idea?
Well, yeah, I was reading PW this morning had a link to an article in Esquire with Josh Cook of Porter Square. And part of that, one of the questions in the interview, and I just dropped it into chat, the link, he talks about how genres, and for me, I'm understanding that to be like display or shelving categories, which can also be a display category, are an agreement. And if the goal is to promote discussion, his context was right-wing conservative books, whether to carry them or not, or how to. So yeah, so I like the idea of naming something and understanding that it's an agreement on a discussion to come. This particular array of books are definitely, head and heart for sure. As as you mentioned, it's kind of the mind body connection.
Yeah.
And
Ooh, mind body connection. So we
That's
got
really- That's really good. I like that.
mind body
Headspace,
connection and
something tied into headspace. I like that.
yeah, a headspace. I was thinking, something along the lines, do you think a little differently? Or I think a little differently. I'm a different sort of thinker, or something that's kind of the deep thoughts. I'm a different sort of thinker. Everybody thinks that and it's true. Everybody has these unique connections inside them. And it's interesting. It's sort of like a dialogue on a table. And I like that about it. So
Free
thank
thinking, maybe like a free, you put them up as a little display, the free thinker salon, something.
the Free Thinker Salon. There we go. And you can do that without necessarily it being a political position, but it's an invitation to be a thinker, an independent thinker. That's really cool. Okay, Steve, I want to move. Let's see, we've got and thank you, Jamie, for the post in the chat, naming genres. We'll take a look at that. That'll be. Is there anything you just covered a little bit of it, but feel free to add more of that as we go, or is there something more that we need to think about? Right.
That was the main point.
Okay, the main point. Well, thank you for that reference, and we'll keep the chat. So anybody that wants to post something in the chat or thinks of something, Sherry, since we're not on my screen, why don't we go over to you and share screen and look at what you've done, because I got a peek of it and I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, so we're doing, let's see, I'm gonna make a hot mess here. Y'all can see my hot mess of a screen now.
Is that how you organize your screen? Look at that.
Yeah. So I
So what do
put
the colors mean?
it brightens me up and makes me pay attention. So this is all like learning stuff. This is social stuff I got to do. These are project things. This is bookstore. This is something I open regularly, and this is you got to be doing this right now, damn it. So this is my my right now, damn it corner, which always colors outside the lines, of course.
Okay.
So we've done a few different displays experimenting with this, and one of the things we wanted to do, I have a girl that posts to social for me, and so I use Metricool, so we can concurrently post to anything that we do to X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, Insta, kind of everything at the same time, Google, Pinterest, LinkedIn. And what we did is put a call out to what's your favorite book you've read this year? And then we will talk about that and build a list of those. So I don't know where one leaves off and the other comes in, but I just kind of mesh them together between talking about narrative display and then talking about bringing that into your newsletter, kind of bringing the fold in. So, and we've had a lot of discussions about that in the newsletter talks too, like how do you carry the theme through? So with this one, when she got her responses, Charlotte, she started getting a lot of responses and said, yeah, we'll build a book list immediately. I'm like, wait, you're killing me, because I've got to go now, unfortunately, good or bad, to X and to Facebook and to Insta to find all these people's responses. So that was not exactly so fun. It was a little bit overwhelming. But what we did on that, let me see if I can move these guys over here. What we did is then we incorporated that into building a bookshop list. So, and I took everyone's choices and put them in and called it Survey Says, Phyllis Somerville Reader Recommendations. And we put all their things in there with the caveat that I told them, anyone that mentioned classics, I told them I'm going to do a separate build out on classics. And then that became the list, and it's weighty. There's like 80 on this list, but I can switch up the order when I want. I can add new things to it. And then we've been socialing on that a little bit. And then what we did So CIC here, we'll be building a separate list of fave classics. And then on our website or on our social, the website is hitting Sunday. The website is concurrent with the newsletter. Basically, I do a blog post and then that post goes to all of our readers every Sunday. So here's the post that we then did on it. I just screenshotted a piece of the bookshop thing. And this one to all our socials, see what fellow avid readers are recommending, work in progress, more to come. I have one to add, reply here. We're also doing an in-store display to honor your awesome choices. And then we took those books from the list. And this was a little bit, so this is something that's a little bit counterintuitive to a lot of us, especially, there are some books on this list that I've archived. If they haven't sold within 2 to 3 months, I archive them, maybe I bring them back for Banned Books Week if that's appropriate or whatever. But for the most part, a lot of these had already been archived. I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to honor the reader's choices. I'm going to honor the reader's choices. And then we did an in-store display, and I'm only going to send you, well, I'll just open up one of these. Is this, nope, that's his. Sorry, I screenshotted that. I wanted to look at those books.
Theft.
I know. Screenshot is everything. That's not the right one either. Let me go into here.
You just sent it in mail to me, so.
Yeah. I have my puppy here with me today. So Broody, the bookstore pup. Rescue pup, and he's laying in the back with me, but that's why everything was running late today, because he had needs. Okay.
It needs.
Had needs. So that is, if y'all can see that. So basically I did the survey says here, and then did a, let's see if I can make this bigger. Whoops. No, probably not. No, can't do it bigger here. But survey says, and then I explain at the top, and then there's a QR code that will take them then right to the bookshop list. And then those books, some of which are still coming back in, we're putting on this display. And I took display pictures running all the way down the display on the octagon there. I just didn't have time to send them over to you. But we basically have the story coming down. So we have very many of these books in here. And again, I can do up to 80, so I can switch them out, move some back and stuff. I said, all right, we'll give it a shot. I feel like, we put this display up the day before yesterday, and we have sold 8 books off of it.
Wow.
In our worst days of the week on Monday and Tuesday. So people want, now we did not give them the white space yet in this particular project to say, what's your favorite when they come into the store, but we'll do that with subsequent, because this was kind of a trial to see what kind of response we get. Now we're going to drill down in subsequent months. I'm going to leave August be, probably going to leave September be, because it's just too much. We'll do October. We'll do tell us about your favorite scared crapless choices, and get their horror picks and put that out in conjunction with Halloween. And then, we'll do maybe something with your favorite, holiday choices or feel good reads for Christmas season. And then we'll do romance reads, during Valentine's Day season, that kind of thing. And just experiment with some different genres, but do the same display honoring those readers' choices. And then we'll also have cards out at that point in time saying, do you have a favorite you want added to the list? Tell us why, and the name of the book here, and we'll get it up, and we can use those as shelf talkers. And then we'll also have that, once I drill down, and I'm only asking for not everyone's favorite book, but what's your favorite horror, we'll ask in those social posts as well, and in the newsletter, tell us about your favorite horror book and why. And again, we'll use those as accredited shelf talkers. So we're kind of tying in the website, the live display, the newsletter, and the social, kind of all working together. That's it.
That is a magical set of connections that you've done. What a masterful thing you've done, because that's the big idea from these sets of workshops, and what we've been exploring is this idea, and I've been trying to grasp it too, the idea of the newsletter being a personal expression of brand and of who you are, and of inviting people into the white space. We turned off our shelf awareness newsletter this week, because we wanted to represent the brand more personally, and it was getting confusing. I've really enjoyed and appreciated having that weekly one, but I've not been good at getting in and making it a personal message and connecting and doing things like that. So, but the newsletter that we did and what you just did, connecting the newsletter, the socials, harvesting that information, putting a big QR code right there. I mean, you're really outside the box in a beautiful way. And I love that you've got some data, just very brief data, but data saying, hey, stuff's moving. We're getting interest
Yeah.
off of this. And I love your plans.
Thank you. We did, well, before this, the first assignment, I did one for cooking. And, we talked about rather than, don't just say cool cookbooks. So we did that one as we did like an F, alliteration thing. So we did, fun, family, friends, food, family, friends, food, fun, and did a sign for that. And then put different cookbooks on. Now that hasn't done as well, but folks are looking at it. But again, just exactly what you said, Lisa, before. I really wanted to key in on, you said, not sure how well this has worked. Honestly, sometimes that doesn't matter because, and again, even if it's not translating to buying that book yet, every time we do this, we're making connections and we're connecting with those readers. And that's all the difference, because once they feel more connected, they feel more like talking, they feel more like asking you about their choices or what should they read next. I have a gift to buy, what should I do next? So that all contributes to that connection in a really bigger way that I think that we're seeing just in immediate ROI.
It's a great point that we don't necessarily see a one-to-one direct correlation, but we get an indirect lift
Yeah.
from the energy that's created there. It's like we might not sell that particular book, but that's not the only measurement. Do they do other things and get interested? Does it cue other thoughts? That's really great. And we're a small group here, but I'm so excited. While you were talking, Sherry, I already shared with Ashley, who is watching the store. I'm like, look what Sherry did. We need to do this because that's really very exciting. And I know you created something that's very tribal. We have a shelf in the bookstore that's, what's Cookville reading, and it's got like different readers on the same shelf. What I love about that is, and that's worked really well for us, it's something we need to bring back and maybe bring it back this way, is that you end up with people who wouldn't sit down to dinner with each other on the same shelf, and who wouldn't think that they were naturally connected. And a lot of times some of their books are the same. Some of their favorite books are the same, which is especially exciting. So that's something to add. Other comments about what Sherry's done here? Steve, Nora, Sandy?
I think it's terrific. I mean, I'm curious about whether the QR code, which I've been involved with a lot, whether a bunch of questions like, does that allow people to leave the store basically the way you don't want people to leave your website? In other words, they're going to the bookshop. Are they buying there instead of your store?
I don't care.
You still get credit, I suppose, if you did it right.
Yeah, exactly. And those are books I don't have to shelve. So if they want to go and look at that list and see what other folks are reading and get them right there, or call us to order them, either way, totally fine.
No, I meant in the store.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so the books on the list, are they all available in the store, or are some of them only available in bookshop?
Well, a lot of them were archived, so they've been reordered. Again, we only just published this recently, so I'm still waiting on some, but most of them will be in the store, except for, a few that I didn't want to diss anyone and not include them, but I know that they're non-starters. So, I mean, I flat out know they're non-starters. So those, again, they can be accommodated by bookshop. And if somebody wants to grab it there, power to them, I'm still getting the cash and I don't have to stock the book or return it when it is a non-starter. So it's totally fine with me. Yeah. And I want to say something about the QR codes too, because I think that would be a whole other discussion. So I'm just going to word vomit for a quick second while it's in my pea brain. So one of the things that I want to do, because again, now I'm talking about our younger readers. A lot of our older readers don't do this, but they are starting to check QR codes. I'm adding one to my book because several of my readers have requested, can you put a QR code right on your bookmark so I can go and know exactly what's happening on events and stuff? So that keys me into that they are paying attention to that. And a project I want to start a year ago, but between crazy and new hires and everything, I haven't been able to do, but I have a new hire now that just started yesterday. It looks like she's going to be fabulous. And so hopefully I want to get back to this project is when we have time, and or a little space, or just accidentally running into something. And I'm talking about YouTube now, because we also have a TV up that we use to simulcast our Zoom meetings and stuff. We hook the computer into that, and when we do Zoom writers group and everything, but then when it's not running that, lots of times we're playing book trailers. I have a channel of book trailers on the TV, but as we're running into new book trailers, how fun is that to immediately generate a QR code for that book trailer and stick that QR code close to the book, and thereby, and serving kind of as a shelf talker, and thereby making your bookstore more interactive, because people are always complaining about, "Oh, but books are old fashioned and this and that." It's a chance to draw them in, and they can learn more about it on the video, about the book, and get into it too. So it's something we're going to experiment with.
I think it's powerful to experiment with, and the QR code is, again, we're thinking outside of the box, and we're going to find things that work for us in different ways. And the whole spirit here is one of experimentation and laboratory. So, unintended consequences are going to happen, but I think embracing the fact that the phone doesn't have to be the enemy here, that it can be the collaborator, is kind of a good thing. We're not going to stop people from holding their phones in the store. We might as well have them looking, not at Amazon,
but a book trailer versus,
a book trailer versus, and maybe there's a trailer to why you care about this bookstore while you're there too, something that's 30 seconds about what you're doing when you buy this book here, something like that. Because I think that's thinking in a Mike Manila sort of way. He was in the newsletter thing, and he's such an idea guy, and he's always thinking about how do you connect with what people understand. And I mentioned in the newsletter how I missed the boat with Barbie because I had Eliza said, "Hey, let's do a Barbie display," and I was like asking tons of questions. I didn't say no, but I didn't immediately say, yeah, do it. Just do what you're feeling, do what you're thinking. I'm like, how would you connect that to literature? And I hadn't seen the movie. I mean, how do you connect that to things that matter to you? How do you tell your own story? I asked too many questions. I made it too hard. And now we're seeing like that everywhere. But it's really helpful to connect to what people are already really doing, and that phone. Love what you've offered here.
Lisa, I just want to say one of the lessons I learned from Mike and his partners when we formed an agency together, and they're the Blair Witch guys, they did the Blair Witch Project, was we would be fooling around with some website or something, and we didn't think it was ready, and they would say, "Stop, just put it up. You can change it later." Put it up, get it going, put it out there on the floor, basically in the store, whatever you're experimenting with, kind of what Sherry's saying. And then, you can adjust to how people react, even if it's not perfect, and it was a great impulse always with those guys.
Yeah. If there's one thing we learned during the pandemic, it's how to freaking pivot, right? Hate the word pivot, but there you go.
I'm always reminded of Friends and Ross's moment.
The other thing I wanted to just mention is, Sherry, about yours, is you have a printed sign with the QR code. And I was in Copperfields, which is in my town, as a part of a small chain here. And they have a lot of shelf talkers with staff recommendations and stuff. And it drives me crazy that you can't read people's handwriting. I'm squinting, trying to, what I like is you printed out the message. So I almost think it would be interesting if shelf talkers were even staff comments and recommendations were printed out rather than hand printed, which is a really simple idea, but access is so important.
It's a great debate. When Amazon opened their brick and mortar stores, they printed every shelf talker, and people reacted and said that feels very impersonal, and doesn't feel real. It's like, because you get, it's like the book trailer, a little something to read. And a few years ago well, we've done it a couple of times, had the great debate. It's kind of like toilet paper on top or behind. Should we handwrite shelf talkers, or should we print them? And it is a great debate and something to see. I appreciate, Steve, that you're saying sometimes they're hard to read. And I've noticed that in our shop, some people write too much. And so I've been encouraging them to write less, but write something that is compelling. Like, this book changed my life after my divorce. This book helped me, blah, blah, blah. Not a synopsis of the book itself, but if they're going to handwrite it. And if they're going to type it, in Parnassus, they do them all typed for the staff picks, and they do it in a Google sheet, and it's a limit of 150 characters. So they do a short typed one, but it's from it's in the voice of the bookseller, and people get to use it. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Nora,
the same will print. We will hand write the shelf talkers, but that's, yeah. And I came out of design and print production early on, so I have a hard time if they write like crap, so I end up just rewriting them when they're not looking.
Oh, yes.
They have to be printed neatly because it makes me crazy if I can't read something. Yeah, I feel you.
So print neatly if you're going to handwrite, or.
But also, I think it would be good to put a small picture, thumbnail of the person, because then it personalizes it more, whether it's typed or whatever. And also, you may see them in the store and you go up and say, I don't agree with you about, Game of Thrones. I don't think that's a very good book, or, whatever.
The problem with that is, Steve, things move so fast in a bookstore. And again, I think I've akin to, like, there's so many things that you have to keep doing over and over and over again, like laundry, like it's rinse and repeat. So hard to bring in new things. So the headspace and the physical time needed to then also produce a thing that also has somebody's little picture on it, and then print that out. And by the time you get that out of there, that book might be gone a week later. So it's kind of a risk versus reward situation. So lots of times we're doing things that we can do kind of quick and move in and out super quickly. I would love to do that if I had somebody that did nothing but that.
Yeah, if you had postcards that just had the picture, like a postcard side or a 3x5 that just had a picture.
We do that with our store logo, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to.
And they could just fill that in each time.
Member's picture, but of course, this year we have to change those out every week too, it seems. So, but yeah, that could be if you had a pre-printed thing with the picture and the logo, and then they could write on. That's not bad.
I'm brainstorming, but I'm thinking I could do, because we use the Shelf Whiz shelf talkers, and they come with perforated sheets, but we make our own perforated sheets or our own sheets afterwards off of that template. And I'm thinking that I could personalize and say, okay, each bookseller, you have 20 shelf talkers to do this month. So here are your 2 sheets with your little picture all over them. And, you kind of know that you're getting everybody's voice in the room and that they're using those sheets. We can always print more, but kind of fun.
That's a great idea. Yeah,
really good idea. I would also have a set of blank ones for the customers to add their own comments back to argue with.
And some people are moving from shelf talkers or use, instead of shelf talkers, they use bookmarks, and let people put, a bookmark in there so that you pick up the book and you go, this is what this person said about the book, which is always interesting too. And those can be color coded. We talked about how that could be, flag the orange books for best love horror in this store, or something that isn't a pull out display, but is sort of an integrated display in the store, and using those. So, all right, I'm going to share my screen. This is wonderful. And Sandy, I want to get you on cue for the things that you've added here. Just a quick note. Okay, I'm going to pull that over here, that we have 4 big ideas that we're kind of following. What's the story here? Being very clear about a story or narrative that we're connecting with, connecting that story through the newsletter and media. And you can start anywhere, but making sure that all those things are seamless, that The newsletter is telling a story that's relevant in your social media, that's showing up in your store, and that we're doing an interesting ask. You know, where we're asking a question, it's an interesting question, it's an engaging, and trying to create white space for others to play and others to participate and put themselves. Because if we're going to make a memory, we do that in the store, we do that together. And a quick kind of sidebar, last week I had a group of people, a group of booksellers in for a kind of a mini gathering. And we went to Plenty Bookshop, we went to Franklin Fixtures. We spent the afternoon talking about a lot of big questions with books around book selling in general. And we went on Tuesday morning over to Ingram and we toured the POD factory, which was amazing. I mean, just amazing. And then we had the privilege of being in a workshop where we got to see all the investment in robotics to do backlist retrieval, to get the humans out of their 13 miles of walking a day. And it's like a huge Rubik's Cube that brings the book to someone who's packing it out. And it was very interesting to see that at Ingram, and then to talk to Phil, forgotten his last name. He's the COO of Ingram. But anyway, I asked him, I said, what's the one thing you would do if you could magically fix bookstores and you could magically fix the industry? What's the one thing you would do? And he said, I would eliminate receiving and the need to receive, and I would eliminate checkout, the need to check out, because I don't feel like we're adding a lot of value in either of those places. And I would focus all the effort in the middle. Because if somebody's coming to a bookstore, like Mike Manella said, they want us to make a memory, they want something special. So he would put all of his effort in the middle on great display and great connection. And that's that white space piece, you know, that connection, that conversation. So I thought that was food for thought. We don't have a way to eliminate receiving, and we don't have a way to eliminate checkout yet. But I think that's the goal. I think putting everything in the middle and creating this experience. So I'm gonna, let's see, whoops, I went too far. We're telling great stories, 2 storylines, types of narrative and displays. You want to tell a story that matters to you. It's nice to send someone on a journey or talk about a stranger coming to town. We're exploring themes, shared quests, individual voice. Sherry, I think your favorite book thing is a theme. And it's a really great way that you've used theme. You know, you've asked a question that is the theme. What's your favorite book? And you've talked about how you can drill that down into further, categories. And I think the more specific we are, the more engaged we'll be. Like, it becomes a shared quest. What's the best horror book this year? What's the, something like that. Or an individual voice, someone saying, this is my book. You kind of merged all of those ideas in yours. I'm going to pass through these, but we are going for clarity, comprehension, and connection with people. And I think that's really good. I'm going to pass through mine and come back to mine here and get over to Sandy's. So Sandy, are you there? Sorry. Are you in a place where you can talk?
Yes, I'm here. I'm okay.
Okay, so we've got up some of your trials, and talk us through what you did and what you saw, what resulted in what you did.
So I'm not really great at signs and thinking up the right sayings, as you can see. So the Octagon usually just has newer books on it because I don't have space to do face outs on the shelves. So we put a lot of our new books on the Octagon. I will change that to a theme as it gets closer to our Queen City Mischief and Magic event. That'll be turned into everything Harry Potter. But that's basically all that is. It's just adding stuff to it to try and catch people's eye. And it does. But it's just an extra place to put books, to be honest.
Okay, so right now you have some good things going. You have a place to put books that gives face out and people can see the books. And so you've elevated some books. You've got height and pyramiding, which is always attractive. You've got so let's talk about let's I think you're inviting us to be helpful and to think with you on this. So let's think
Yes.
so let's think together about how, because I really appreciated that last time when everybody gave me feedback and ideas, we went in and did. So those are some things that are working about the display. How might we make this more story-like, given the constraints that Sandy has described?
Can you make it a little bigger?
Can I make it a little bigger? Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll have to go out here.
Well, we can do it also in our own Zoom. I can.
Um,
Well, I
I'll-
would maybe key in on something about you don't want to miss this, because people don't like to be left out. So yeah, take a look before you miss this one. Key in on that, if you haven't seen this thing yet.
and people read from the top to the bottom. I think Sandy's got a customer, so that's like
Nope, I'm okay.
okay. So we've got and we've got this recording, so you can always go back. But people read from the top to the bottom, the left to the right. So up here on the top, where you've got the berry lavender lemonade, that sounds delicious. The question is that your most, that's where you put something that names this display. So it could literally be a sign, or it could be a color, or it could be like something like Divine Rivals here would be an interesting book to put at the top, so long as you could follow it then with Divine Rivals or things that kind of worked with that as a topic, if not a full theme. Every Rising Sun, that looks like a beautiful book. Is there a book on here that you particularly love and are excited about?
I already sold it.
Okay. What's the next one that you're excited about?
I haven't had a chance to read Divine Rivals yet. It's on my list, but it's pretty far down there. I have so many others to do.
So the top of the pyramid's the most exciting thing. So right now, berry lavender lemonade, it might be giving you your best margin. And if that's true, then it's technically okay up there. But I would suggest that there's something up here that is either the thing that is most special in the whole store, or that's really special to you, a book, an expensive book, something with great margin, or something that helps you start to tell a tale, and starts to connect these. That Sherry said, you don't want to miss. It can be as simple as something that's the analogous to Oprah's picks. It could be Sandy's sensations, and it can just be a table full of things that you think are sensational. That's a topic, but it's personal. And it comes from you, and everything that makes it to this table is something that you can just unequivocally recommend because you love it. That would be you and your own journey. What else could we do here that would help Sandy pull together a theme? So,
I think the book at the top should be Silver Nitrate, or some book that's much more graphic. In other words,
okay.
it should be your favorite, but also, because you come from design, it'd be great to have something that instantly captures your eye. It's a bright color, Silver Nitrate. It's an interesting idea. There's also, I don't know what the green one at the bottom is, but something that, because what you have, the Sun book, I can't quite read it, is kind of, I'm sure it's a really interesting book, but it's kind of a confusing cover. It's got too much going on, maybe.
And these eyes, there's two things in advertising that really grab people: eyes and red. There's this saying, no red, it's dead, so that's a great piece of insight. If in the absence of a theme or the ability to do anything that's more time consuming, you can always go to the top with something that's just a real grabby book, and then organize your books in some color flow, since you're away from your shelves and author organization. And then if you've got amazing lemonade, how does that fit into this story? How does that fit in with the rest? If I'm giving a gift, does it, is it, we've got boozy lemonade or lemonade, or how does that fit into the story? If you're recommending a,
So there was a sign at the top that said summer reading. And if anybody else carries those infusions in their store, they know that you add alcohol to them. You put them in the refrigerator, let them sit for a couple of days. And then when you want to drink, you add a little bit more alcohol and you have a drink. And there was, like I said, the sign up there about summer reading, which was why that is there. Now, haven't had a chance to change those out yet, but those are going to be hitting our clearance table.
okay, so the moment for the berry lemonade has passed, is what you're
Yes.
saying, or
Yes.
unless you find a new way to combine it without discounting it, that elevates it. If you're like, fall entertaining, if you're like, but that again, these are topics, not themes. So a topic, summer reading is a topic. A full-on theme is like a name of a movie. It's like something that grabs you and takes you someplace, or tells you something, teaches you something. So, something up here that, we've
Yeah,
got,
summer beach book party kind of thing, with
yeah,
the drinks there. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so summer doesn't have to be over yet. It's not.
Not down here.
It's not over until September, summer in September. And summer, what are you going to do for fun in September, or something that is a question, and then pulling it in. I see this in our store a lot, that we will, because of space or time or shape, end up with something at the top that isn't, of a pyramid, that isn't as important. So if it's at the top, it's naming the display, and so whatever you pull up, I love the silver nitrate, and like, don't miss this, could be below, books you don't want to miss. That's again is a topic, but at least it's a strong topic there. So that would be an opportunity to bring in. Good. Let's look at this one for you.
Can I say one thing, Lisa?
Yeah.
I don't. I think you have to be careful about using titles or headings or headlines above the collection that are sort of like a roadblock. In other words, I think it's much better, obviously, if it's a question mark, and if it's even confusing. It's like, even if it's said over this, what's going on here, or that's not right, but something that's more provocative, again,
It's a good,
as always, so that it isn't just, oh, okay, that's the summer collection, because that's kind of
what's
passive.
happening here. I love that, provocative, and that's
Yeah.
Steve's marketing, which is wonderful. So I tend to be very static, so I love that. What's going on here? What's happening here? Something that creates a question in the mind and takes them on a mystery.
Another way of doing it is, the velvet rope thing, which, like Netflix now, and I think Criterion announced the films that are leaving. So I'm sure everybody like me is watching a couple of movies you wanted to see. They're on your list, but they're not quite at the top. But now they're leaving in 2 days, so you go and watch it. So if the title, even where we're about the remainder of these books, you go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of that last chance idea, which is
Yeah, the last chance. Yeah.
Hack, but it's a retail hack for a reason.
Well, even if at the top it said only today, which doesn't really mean anything, but what do you mean only today?
Yeah, today.
Are you throwing these books out, or are you putting back on the shelves, or what are you doing?
Today only. That's really good thought. So, Sandy, is that helpful? Okay.
Yes.
What do you think you might try?
The signs and shifting the books around, maybe putting the more colorful stuff up a little bit higher.
Okay, so let's try that and kind of see what results you get. So the the test is in the touch. If people are not touching it, it's not working. If they're touching it, it's working. You can tell within the first 5 people that come in if your display is working. If people go all day and they don't touch the berry lavender lemonade, or anything on that display, it's not working as well. So that's the touch is the test. How is this one? Tell us about this one.
So this is the backside of our notable in nonfiction display. And we sell a lot of cookbooks, and I just try and shift this around and put new things on there. We do sell a decent number of cookbooks off there. As you can see, there's already one missing, but it's just the backside of notable nonfiction, which actually faces the front. So I sent that one to you too.
Okay. So curious what inspires you to put the all in stock cookbooks 10% off? Why the discount? What's
So I run it every couple of weeks. We put it on there. It helps. It's almost ready to end. It goes off this Saturday, and then it won't come back until towards the holidays.
okay. And does that help you sell more cookbooks?
Mhm.
When you offer a discount, you
Yeah.
just more discount.
The majority of my cookbooks I order directly from the publisher. So it's a little bit, I can do that with them.
So interesting. So what is the theme of this display? What are you saying with this display? Or is that what you're wanting help with here? Probably.
I'll be honest with you, yesterday my bookseller filled in 5 empty spots. So the theme that I had on there is gone.
Okay.
It was summer stuff.
Okay. So, well, the olive oil enthusiast is a very interesting title, and you kind of got it elevated in this blank space here. But and I'm wondering if that might be, what can you do with olive oil? I mean, if that's actually a theme that might go, or what can you do with one ingredient or something that what does the group think that might help this display? We've got face outs, you can see them easily. Looks like some interesting cookbooks. So
I would keep those, any cookbook that you know is going to use a lot of olive oil, your veg, your Italian cookbooks, that, and then keep that olive oil elevated, and maybe do some kind of like starburst sign underneath it or something, and leave it up there and on purpose, because your word elevate was perfect, and just say something like olive oil elevates everything, and then have the cookbooks that contain a lot of things using olive oil underneath,
yeah.
because then it puts it on their palate.
What
Yeah.
do you guys think about mixing in a couple books that talk about cooking for health, or about oil as either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what oil? In other words, books that aren't necessarily cookbooks, but they talk about the subject of oil or something like that. Like, so you expand it, because a lot of people are, I have like 8,000 different kinds of oils, and people are always telling me, oh, don't use peanut oil, it's bad for you, or don't use canola, use oil, and look at the Mediterranean diet. And so, a couple books that went into that discussion would be interesting too.
You could use any of these books could be followed. So the olive oil enthusiast is really interesting because it's very specific. And I love the idea of the specificity. Like any of us who have, I'm an olive oil enthusiast. I love getting olive oils. I love sampling olive oils. I love the way they taste. So yeah, elevating just the olive oil specific cookbooks that are, and other, I love that, Steve, other health benefits of olive oil, or olive oil in the skin, or olive oil in use, anything that's topical. You can also purchase for a theme. If you're like, I've got one book and I love the color and the cover and what it does, and it's really expressive, and I want to sell the heck out of that book. Or you could, you're loving lemons every day, or feel good food. Feel good food would make a really interesting title for this display. If you put feel good food elevated in the center here, and you let everything else kind of fall down below so that it's actually feel good food. Or Breast and Yam, that I don't know what that book is about, but it looks like it might be local or it might be Southern, or I don't know that book. Do you know that book, Sherry?
No.
No, okay. So the idea is to take one of the books or something and then make everything else make sense with it. So it's not, we're always driving towards specificity.
And you
Cookbooks.
use that, make that one book a big graphic, bright book like Olive Oil that grabs
Yeah.
your attention.
I mean, if you had nothing but olive oil enthusiast on this, you'd probably sell more of that book. It would be, that's the power of one book, but the power of one idea is what we're after. Sandy's on the phone, so I'm going to go back to some of the ones that I had that you guys helped with. And I'll start with this one. Did I show you this one before? With Jeff Deutsch and his In Praise of Good Bookstores. This one was, I took his book as a connecting theme, and I did 3 takes on his theme. He talks about why reading matters. He's an author who has a bookshop, and it's not in the frame, but the last one is, he talks about what's important about a book, what makes, how to read well. So why reading matters, authors who have bookshops, and how to read well. So I kind of did a bookish connected display here. And interestingly, and this is what I found fascinating, none of his books have sold, but all of the others have. So I can't figure out why his book, which is the theme, sort of hasn't sold, unless people are just treating it like a sign. I mean, I love the book and I think it's a pretty book, but anyway.
Well, unless they're a bookstore, they don't appreciate that much.
Right.
But if
That's an
they're a
inside
reader,
baseball
they're
book.
going to appreciate anything related to reading. We have a little display that says, just books about books.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great.
It's so this is really books about books and and some people are interested in that. This has a fans and some other things, but Tom Lake's selling probably because it does, and Emma and Judy Bloom, but people have seen these books. It is inside baseball, and he was in the store, so I couldn't resist. But that was okay. This was the first rendition. You'll remember that last time we had our dog and he was kind of in the center, and we had all this whole center area was little dog collars. And it was very, very busy. And we had all of these things, and you suggested make it less busy, get the collars and that display off and do something different. So we did this with All American Dogs, Dog Tales. It's a little less busy, and it sold right away. I mean, things started selling through. So there was immediately pulling up something else, Service Dog Training Guide, The Grace of Dogs. Again, this is not a perfectly named display, but it's more comprehensible. The Grace of Dogs. I love the face of this dog and his little eyes looking at you. So my ceramic dog that I made, he's a little formidable. He's not as welcoming, but this guy is really happy. And then that sold. So then it went to Pet Pride, and here, nothing had. But I asked our staff to kind of take pictures as it went. And so you're looking at kind of a picture every hour through a day. So a lot of change every hour to see. And you notice that in the hours, the things that are going are the things that are on top and kind of in the center. We had more of these, so we pulled them out, but this is kind of where we landed and were at the end of the day, the Forever Dog. And I kind of like that one in the center. And I think it still may be a little busy, but let's talk about this one. What do you see here that could yet improve, or what do you like about this display?
I just think that top shelf, the very top, it's kind of crowded.
Okay.
I think it needs a little space
Mhm.
so that the stuff shows up a little bit more. That's all.
Okay. And what would you remove here to give it more space?
The puzzle.
This puzzle, this end puzzle, because these are both puzzles. So this is the
Yeah,
cat.
I would move the far right one to me and
Okay.
move the pet one over.
Okay, and move the pet one over. Okay. Nora, any thoughts on what you would do to improve this display?
So in pretty much all of our displays that we have at Buffalo Street Books, we include a lot of sidelines. They're just very eye-catching, and I see you've done that with what I'm not sure what jiggies are in the little shelf, but I'm definitely fascinated by the little cat with the paw on the books, and the
Puzzles.
little dogs on the. Is that a puzzle?
They're super fast puzzles.
Oh, okay.
We have jiggy competitions to put together the puzzles, because they're like 50-piece puzzles that are really, and they're designed to be a fun game with people.
Okay.
Together fast.
So, I
think that's-
actually kind of like the crowding on the top. And I like that it's a mix of heights and stuff. I don't know that I would go from like small to tall. I might put the shorter ones in the center. But then on that first shelf, I love those little gizmos too. We do a lot of that too. We'll stick a candle between two books and stuff. It makes it look like there's always something happening and gets people focused on that when they might not be looking at a sideline shelf as much. The only thing that I would do differently, like on this first shelf, is I would move that first face out over maybe 10, 12 books in from the left, and then have a block of books, and then those other ones, and then some more books. So it's much the same as the blogging principle of, shorter words, shorter sentences, shorter paragraphs, shorter lines of book. So if we bust that up, it makes that easy. My human eye can take in, oh, I want to look at these 12 books on this shelf. My human eye can't take in, I want to look at 30. I can't comprehend. So I'm gonna look at one little block. Yeah.
And I love that. That's a great insights. Thank you. I think those are
also, Lisa, I would also remove the two books on the right on the top, because you can't read them in the distance. And I would make sure whatever's there you can read from 5 feet away. Like put one of the puzzles up there or something like that. Because I don't pay any attention to the two books on the right.
So these are puzzles up here on the right.
Well, whatever they are, I don't, they're multiple images, and
There's too many images going on, and you wouldn't pay.
Whereas Dogtails and Forever Dog are great. They pop,
Okay. I think the Forever Dog really is a nice one. I surprising new science to help your canine live younger, healthier, and longer. So it actually does if you care about your dog, you care about those things. So we could probably get more titles of that and make that more interesting. I appreciate what Sherry's saying about the movement of height. We've got a little bit of something live and green there, which fills it up, but it doesn't feel quite to me like the two puzzles are working together. And interestingly, the thing that hasn't moved in this display is the cat countess. So she's not been catching the cat people at all. So let's see, I'm going to go back up here. Okay, I'll go down. Sorry, close your eyes. I don't mean to make you dizzy. Sandy, are you back? Let's see.
Yes.
You sent me this picture, which is from the front. This is,
yes. So we used to have that one display that has the cookbooks on it in the front window, but it blocked a lot of the sun and it made it feel closed in. So when I had a chance to get this, I put this up there. So the nice thing about this is it spins. I am able to put 2 books on each shelf, except for the nonfiction, which has a different kind of shelf. So it's only 1 book per shelf.
Okay. So how's this working for you? What's this?
Any any books on display works well, but I don't get the whole not wanting to take a book off display. You know,
Does that happen to you, or does that, or are you saying you don't get it because it doesn't happen, or it does happen?
because it happens, you know, people will look at a book and everything and, well, I don't want to take your display. Well, please do. You know, as a smaller store, I very rarely have more than 2 or 3 copies of a book. So if there is only one out, chances are I only have the one, but please go ahead and take it. And, you know, I've seen some stores have actually put little signs up that says, you know, yes, please take the display, but I don't know. I haven't done that yet.
Well, and you raise a real interesting question, because if it looks static like a display, people will have that feeling. And um, part of what when we first opened, we had that issue. Now we have a lot of first-time people, a lot of visitors, a lot of people who are coming from out of town, so they don't know it, and they readily take the display. I've not heard that in a while. And you've got me thinking about what's the difference, because we usually are 1 or 2 deep and not much more. And on titles, which is, and here you've got Colson Whitehead, you've got, you know, it looks like 4 deep there. So you've got some depth on some of the books. So I wonder what is the difference. Also, this is to the left of your entrance, if I'm reading that right, right? You come.
Yes, when you walk in the door, it's on the left-hand side.
Do they pull the door or push the door?
They pull the door.
So when they pull the door, they're going to their right. And your right is a more
But there's no window on the other side.
Gotcha. So it's so this is mainly probably for the outside until somebody's in there, and you make sure in your planogram that they're hitting that space, because typically people travel right and they undulate, and then they miss, I call it the dead left. They miss that left of entrance area. A lot of times they don't see it as much, but or they see it as a window display or something like that. Food for thought. Any thoughts on the single copy, Sherry? Do you have anybody or
yeah, we go through it a lot too, where people go, "Oh, do you have more copies of this book?" And I'll say, "Well, no, just grab that one." "Oh, I don't want to mess up your display." "No, it's fine." Yeah. So we do have to have that conversation. And I don't think there's any way around that, because other than bookstores, who else, you know, clothing will have a whole outfit shown in front and then the stacks of shirts behind it, you know, so it's
Right.
it's not something that they're used to. So you're not going to completely re-educate everybody all the time. It's an ongoing issue.
and we're just one title throughout. So people seem really excited about shopping that, and then we turn other things. Nora, what's your philosophy? And are you have people
We
asking
have
that question?
conversations with customers all the time, and especially around our staff pick shelf, because you know those are books that we're personally saying, hey, you should read this. And you know, we all get really excited when we see an empty space on our shelf, like, oh, we get to put out a new book. And I know, at least with my shelf in particular, like I haven't had anyone take a book off there in a really long time. I think it's just people not wanting to mess up whatever displays we have, but I guess that's the whole purpose of a display in a bookstore.
So how do we make it touchable? How do we make it so that people will? And Sandy, I'm going to skip over your others real quick and kind of go to a couple more of the ones that I had. I mean, this is a clear display. This is the one I showed last time with my grandmother and some of that. This one, and so you can do different movements. I'm going to pull back here. So here is a display. You've got 1 or 2 copies of things. People, well, and you see over here, lots of 1 copies and single copies. And we're not having that trouble anymore. And I'm wondering why. I have no idea. I have no answer for that. Except that
So are those actual books above and below the bench?
Above and below the bench, these are book looking games. So
Okay.
this is Monopoly, Scrabble, Sorry,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
and we've got the chess
people
board.
are pulling from that as
And
well?
people, yeah, in the space that I took the photo, somebody took one. So
Yeah,
down
okay.
here. And so yeah, people are pulling from this display and all of the displays. We're tracking right now in the store for 7 turns, and my goal is 12. So we're turning things really fast. Now
Right.
there's some
But
debate,
see,
but
that looks really inviting, whereas the grandmother one before it, super inviting, super engaging. I want to read more about it. So it's connecting me physically, but that's one that if I were walking into a new store, even knowing what I do, I don't know that I'd want to mess that up.
right. But this, you'd be glad to take some
Yeah,
books.
exactly. Yeah.
This is a horrible display. Yeah, so I included it here just to kind of add. It's not, I'd say, horrible in the sense that it doesn't really have a theme. We've got Mad Libs and experimentation and a magnifying light, but there's this blank space that doesn't have meaning up here, and so this is an example of the kind of thing we walk by every day that could be so much stronger. Even if I just pulled up questions and answers about science and put that at the top so that it connected here and it made sense. Um, and I want to ask, let's see, I'm cognizant of time. We're about to run out of it. So
Hey,
that'll
Lisa,
be,
Can you go
Lisa?
back to that one? Could you go back to that one real quick? Okay,
Yeah.
so both science, questions and answers, and then you have Mad Libs, that's creativity. So something like, maybe I don't know if I put the Mad Libs on there, but like for kids and stuff, like knowledge is our superpower, and do a starburst, stick starburst on the thing, and knowledge is our superpower, and
their
just
superpower. That
Yeah.
would be a good one. Knowledge is their superpower. Or,
Yeah.
this Cool Blue experiment kit, that's a good margin sideline thing. So,
Yeah.
and it's all about getting your hands in it. So,
Yeah, or even learning is our superpower, something like that, so that
yeah, gifts for the emerging scientists. I mean, so that's sort of static, but I'm gonna run out of time for all of my
Lisa, can I show one thing?
yes, yeah.
You,
I have to
you
come
take that
out.
off the screen and I'll do.
Okay. Okay, I stopped shared.
Okay, hang on a minute. Let's see if I can do this.
I'm
So
gonna have to decide what one thing.
not to overemphasize Mr. Daunt, but so this is in the Barnes and Noble, the new Barnes and Noble in Brooklyn, and for some reason I can't show the whole thing, but he's only got 2 books, but multiple copies that don't seem
I
to
don't
go
think
together.
you should put those two next to each other, I'm just saying.
Yeah, so he does. And so he's doing 2 things here. One of which is it's really striking, and it may just draw you into the store. I can't remember if it's at the front of the store. They really don't go together except for the covers, which is interesting because
No, I meant those two of the same cover, the art without
so what
measure.
he's done here, let's see, and this is something that let's see if I can find, this is all Daunt stuff. So this is something he does a lot, and this is a striking display. It's a trending topic, and there are multiple copies. So if you take one, you're not intimidated about taking one. And that's the only thing I would think about with some of this stuff. Let me just see if there's anything else here. Yeah, even the front window, they do one, and this is Marylebone in London when I was there. And so there's a lot of repeats that draw your eye like this.
I think what he does in England that you illustrated well, Steve, is that he picks one thing that he's crazy about
Yeah.
and eliminates the other choices. So he does 2 different things that are interesting. One, he puts things together and that are not expected, and the other is that he puts things together that are like one thing. And I like the signage that he's got there too. So
the advantage he has with this store, which is his original store, and by the way, the bookseller there is doing it. James Daunt's not doing it. He's busy running Barnes and Noble. But it's a 10,000, it's like 7,000 square feet or something. It's 2 stories. So he can afford to waste a lot of space on one book. So in a way, it's a cheat that for the rest of us can't.
Well, and we're back to and I want to come back over here, if that's okay. And we're back to this idea of curated browsing versus deep browsing. So deep browsing, I'm going in, this is at least how I'm thinking about it. I'm going in and I know I'm going to be there for the afternoon and I'm going to be looking for something that I kind of have an idea. I'm going to Chicago Seminary Bookshop. I'm expecting 100,000 titles in the store. I'm expecting to deep browse. Or you're going to our store and you're expecting 8,000 titles in the store and you're going for curated browsing. You want to be shown what's interesting and have us curate it for you and put it in front of you in a more merchandising way, which is an 1,100 square foot space in downtown can't afford to do 3 turns a year and make it.
Yeah, it's the anthropology approach, because anthropology stores were definitely curated. They take you through a display. It's like being in an art gallery. You walk through it.
So I want to show you just a couple that have really worked. This is the story of Diego. He's a self-made entrepreneur. He's the cheese man. I mentioned that we were doing this last time. He's an Enneagram or Enneagram, however you say that, 8. He is from Mexico. He is all about body language. He loves this honey. He does a lot of things. And this display has created a lot of interest because it's not about a single theme. It's about cooking, it's about living, it's about decorating, it's all the things that Diego is interested in. And so he's sort of a local celebrity now because he's in this magazine, and we turned the page and we asked him to curate. So what I need to do now, this has been selling well, really well, but I need to do what Sherry's doing and connect this in our social media and in our newsletter. And I haven't made that connection yet, but that's next. Is like, we're going to leave this up. It's got to have meaning and connection that connects to all those things. I think that would be.
And what you should do in the newsletter, obviously, with Diego, is tell the story, have him in his own words tell the story, or you tell the story, meeting him and him coming in and doing this.
Well, I think we could have a story. We could have a short Instagram video of him, in the store talking about the things that he loves, and that would help sell it.
Post each day. Diego loves ... Truby honey. Diego loves and it's sort of like a Where's Waldo.
Yeah, Diego loves
Diego. Well, why do we care that he loves this? Yeah.
And we did Finding Waldo. Now we could do Finding Diego's Love, and we could put these things back in their genre categories and have little Diego hearts all the way through the store. You could follow Diego. This is just a curated display around Tolkien that in collectible classics, that by putting them here together, face out, all Tolkien at the top, all Tolkien at the bottom, we can't keep this. We sell this out every day. Every day. So I am reluctant to try anything else because this is selling so well. And I don't know when we'll saturate the leather bound Tolkien idea, but people are like, it's highly giftable, and we're selling it like crazy. We're doing things like this, like the Dragon Folk Madness puppet along with the thing, because this is an autographed copy. So as people are thinking about gifts and gifting, and I'm going to a birthday party, oh, I'm going to grab this dragon and this, I'm going to have the coolest birthday party gift, an autographed copy, which some kids don't care about, but a lot of parents do. And I'm moving quickly here, but this one came directly from your help last week, or last time we met. You said, we should put some signage on here that was readable. And I just added "What's your story?" To this round table where we have these really nice books, and we have our Blackwing pencils and other kinds of things. And this has sold so incredibly well for us. I mean, we sold out of Blackwing, we've replenished, we've pulled other notebooks and things in. This has been a great table, and I've got just a couple of views. And it was just that, what's your story? That's it. That's all I did was add "What's your story?" And it went from moving okay to moving like crazy. And I thought that was a really great testimony to what you added there. There's one other I wanted to include here. I apologize. We've skipped around a little bit. I think I have. Nope. Okay. It's the one that we did on the writing things, and I put it in here, but I don't know where it is. I apologize. We're flipping through. We don't have time for all these photos. But this is another interesting place that you asked me to think about, and I just added one sign. How do you create? And comic books, everything else about the display is the same, but it's been moving better since we added how do you create. This is interesting because we used color flow, and we did Tennessee Tech. We had a lot more people in the store over the weekend, but our sales were down on that particular day, which was interesting. And I don't find the thing I was looking for. I'll have to include that, but I went in the display that had writing things. I just did a single copy at the top, and that said, what's your story? And it was, or writing your story. And it was that one copy going all the way across. And then below it, I took you remember I had the colored notebooks, and they were sort of static. We moved those down. We put back into the light the little writing card sets and other things. And every shelf has color flow, and every shelf makes sense. And we integrated the books with the card sets, and that has just moved. And interestingly, the colored notebooks that we had, that it's sort of been sitting, they've been moving faster too, since we actually lowered them but it made sense with the top that's like, writing your story, and then next to it, what's your story? So this idea that we're inviting people to create and come in and be part of it. So that was my little way of white space. I'm going to give I'm going to give awards to you guys for your trials, and Sherry, you're especially motivating with what you did with the scope of it, by the newsletter and all those things. Those are things that I want to try, and I'm going to try going forward. This is our final workshop on this, but I'd like for you to think for just a second about what you'd like to take forward from the things we've talked about, and give everybody a chance to do that as we wrap up. What's one idea or something that you're going to do next in your exploration of storytelling or narrative and display? Sherry, you've already got next.
Yeah, I think that more of the same. I think that especially when it comes to the blogging and the social and stuff, and connecting those readers that aren't necessarily in the store that week but might drive them into the store, is a matter of, not phoning it in. I think that that's the basic, connecting. When we were talking about, telling the personal stories and stuff, it forces us to think of a unique approach and a unique angle always, that makes sure that we're continuing to promote those connections and not just phoning it in, because the readers know.
I like that. Sandy, do you have a next space that you want to do? What do you want to do next or try next?
Maybe if we could look at that wall, that I know it's a wall that you like, because I asked you if you thought, I should put fixtures there or not, and you said you like the openness of it, but if you want to put it up, I have a question to ask everybody. I'll ask their opinion.
We're kind of at our time.
That's okay.
So make sure that
I think I need to do more signs and things like that. So I did get that from everybody. So that I think will help a lot.
Yeah, you've got the product. You just need to lead them into it.
So with this wall, my plan is I already have the lettering to put up along the top that says Indie Bookstore Bestsellers, and I'm going to paint that wall purple, the same color as my back wall. Just the bottom part, not the top part.
So you're investing a lot of space here to this, and there's a lot of breathing room. So I think what we're talking about with narrative and display is making sure that these are powerful. These are power players when you're going to invest this much space to something.
Those are the Indie Bookstore Bestsellers.
Indie bookseller bestsellers and
Yes, those are the indie bookstore bestsellers, nonfiction, fiction, the paperbacks, and then there's the kids and teen, and then there's new and paperback, new and hardcover, and new and kids and teen.
okay. So it's got strong organization in the sense of a traditional genre and what's new. And I think the challenge here will be something that makes that really it's going to pop by itself because of the space that you've given it. So to really bring indie bestsellers is a topic, not really a theme yet. So what would take it that next level and really make that thematic, make that storytelling, make that compelling? You know, why do I care about indie bestsellers? You know, what is it that, you know, like, is that something I'm not going to see anyplace else? You know, things you won't see in another store, something like that. Would be
So do all those things behind the books, the stands on those top
Mhm.
things, do all those move or
No,
are they static?
no, they stay there. The books change, but
Okay,
those stay where they're at.
okay.
and
Really
people do
can't,
these books, right, Sandy? Are people
pardon?
shopping? Are people touching and shopping these books that are on those guitar stands?
Oh, I have to refill that at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, that's
Okay.
good. Yeah. What
So
I might do is just pull one and put a sign card up on there instead and vary where that sign card is all the time. And just so that, first of all, it's very perfect, but it's very perfect. So that perfection is more like a museum display. Yeah, less touchable. Where if you stick one card in there that says, hey, have you read this hit this week? And then have it surrounded by the hits. So have it in the center one time, and then, a few days later, move it to the top and then move it to the lower right. So there's a little bit of off balance, but it's always something new drawing their attention. Say, oh, wait, I didn't pay attention
So
to that.
unfortunately, that is a concrete wall,
Right.
and I can't take one of those off and then
No,
move
I'm
it
not saying to
around.
take it off. I'm saying instead of a book on there, put a card stock, put a card sign on there.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
so
Yeah.
so let one of these, or let this space right here
Yeah.
let have a traveling card sign that
There you go.
really
Yeah.
helps bring people in. So
Mhm.
yeah, so right now these are all books that these are books we're going to find in, Covenant of Water. All these are best-selling books. And so what's going to really pull us into one, or pull us into the display?
Yeah, I
That'll
would,
be
as always, I would do something a little more challenging, which would be to say, um, books that are not selling on either coast or something like that. This is,
yeah.
this ain't even negative. Say, look, these books are not selling. They're selling here, but not in New York or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. You would add some kind of dissonance, or books you're not going to find anyplace else,
Yeah,
or books you don't want to miss today, today only, or this week, something. Or you could do what Sherry was doing with, our readers picks. It kind of depends on your things, but
What makes these books special? What makes these books special? And you can even stick little arrows up. If you do that sign in the center, put arrows arrowing out to the other ones, and
yeah. That's a great idea with arrows. Yeah.
the question of what makes this big book special adds a whole thing, because you created specialness. You're getting traction on this wall. People can easily access and see the books. So, adding that's what we're talking about when we're talking theme. So yeah, very interesting. So kind of continuing your thematic quest. I'm going to stop the share there and give Nora a chance to tell us what's next for you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that attending these meetings has made me realize is that we have so many customers who come in and tell us why they love Buffalo Street books,
Uh-huh.
but there's never really there's never been a place for them to actually say to the public, or on our website, or to actually write down why they love our bookstore, what draws them to our bookstore. So I'd like to add something to our website that gives them the opportunity to share that story. So we can include that in our newsletters and on social media, and having customers say, you know, this is a book that I bought here that changed my life. And being able to maybe put those books more to use than they are just being on a shelf, being something that staff isn't really thinking about too much.
Those voices, this changed my life. I mean, that's the experience that we're trying to cultivate, and we have that power to do that and display and to bring that really to life. So it's deeper than making it pretty. It's deeper than even good basic display technique. When we talk about narrative display, we're talking about an engaging tale that goes beyond the physical bookstore walls, that really lives in their hearts and shows up in lots of different media and lots of different ways and lots of different ways in the store. So that's very exciting. I'd really appreciate hearing your success stories and knowing what's moving for you. I'm feeling excited that we're on track for 7 turns. That's a major achievement. So and seeing the bookstore sell and do that, that's exciting to me. And I feel like we are 25 at Plenty, we're 25% of where we need to be in terms of exploring these concepts in really depth and
You know what, and then Lisa, you know, just to get one word in here, my takeaway is what I think Sherry said earlier is the most important thing is don't phone it in. I think it's, you know, think it through, walk in the shoes of your customers. You know, like when Nora said about you know, you do on Instagram, people and Facebook, people comment on everything, allow them to do that in the store.
I like that. I like that.
But don't phone it in, think it through. And that could be a time when you're driving or something else, you know, you don't have to, doesn't have to interfere with work time.
Right.
What would be a crazy thing I could do that would really, people would start talking about? What could I do in the store that would be kind of nuts, you know?
And there are endless ideas, aren't there? I mean, yeah, so people can feel our focus. And so when we don't phone it in, when we focus on narrative display, we will find endless ways of doing it. And I know that just taking some photographs in the store for myself and then looking at them just as a photograph, I see things that I wouldn't see otherwise. So that's kind of a good thing. Well, this will be available in a video. There's been a ton of good things covered. I think we've just begun a question of narrative display that kind of meets up with the newsletter, and we're going to continue this conversation about bookselling in general, looking at data in our 3rd and 4th strategies as we look at that. So we've got 2 more strategic workshops that we're trying to do. One is around community partnerships and really expanding, which kind of takes this conversation one more step into how do we really cultivate community engagement and partnerships. And the other is thinking about the book selling advocacy for the book selling industry itself. What do we need? What do we want to do? Who are we? What's the successful model really look like? So, and there are other folks who want to play in those spaces too. So thank you for this. This is very good. So
Thank you. It's been great.
so
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you. These have been wonderful.
it certainly has been helpful for me, and I'm glad to hear it's helpful for you.
I did have one final suggestion for Lisa, which is if you're selling Blackwings, which I use, have customers bring in the stubs. Like, so I have, look at this, I have all these Blackwings that I've used up. So
I love it.
Then you can sell them for a nickel. Yeah.
I love it. Sell your Blackwing stuff.
Well, the great thing about Blackwing and special pens and stuff is it encourages people to write. And that is, so your writing display had that, I believe, Blackwings in it. And I think that idea of getting people not only engaged in talking about the books you're showing, but actually doing some writing of their own is a great thing.
I love that suggestion. That's great. Thank you for all the suggestions. And Steve, thank you for the display that you put together and the work that you put together for this, and everybody for your efforts.
Yeah, I have a bookstore now.
Yeah, you do. We'll keep learning together. So thank you guys. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.